I have no idea, honestly, how to describe what we all just witnessed, but hey, the Eagles found a way. They won ugly, and they find a way to improve the 13-1. I think at the end of the day, we could say that is the most important thing that matters. We all knew coming into this game against Chicago that this was going to be a trap game, especially when you're, sprinkled in between Giants and Cowboys week. A below 500 team. They're not that good. They're 3-11 right now after this loss, but 3-10 coming into this game. Justin Fields is really taking a shine on the league. One of the better, young rushing quarterbacks. He showed that today in some really ugly, certain situations there by the Eagles defense. But overall, this was an obvious trap game, especially with the Dallas game next week on Christmas Eve looming. So maybe we should have expected something like this, but it also doesn't make it, any prettier. But hey, I guess at the end of the day, we can say a win is a win is a win. They don't ask how you do it. They ask how many that you get. And Jalen Hurts proved that he was human today. There was a lot of questionable things today. Offensively, play calling. Miles Sanders not getting many touches for some reason. Overall in this game, Miles Sanders, he had 11 carries, and it kind of felt like throughout that first half, he barely had anything. It felt like he only had like 1 or 2 carries, and especially in that third quarter as well. He also did have that huge fumble in the fourth quarter, which allowed, Chicago to get some fieldage back, and they scored a touchdown off of that turnover. But overall, Jalen Hurts with some bad reads, some bad throws that went for interceptions. Just a very, I would say, unlike Jalen Hurts, because we all know he's a guy that knows how to, handle the football. He doesn't really turn it over that much and everything like that. But today was just off day. Today was an off day for Jalen Hurts. And overall, they still found a way to win. Jalen Hurts, he still found a way to put up over 300 yards in this game, 315 yards. Even though overall 2 interceptions, that's not good. Jalen Hurts on a bad day, he still put up over 315 yards. And he still found a way to get you to a victory. He made an absolute dime to A.J. Brown, put some absolute dimes to Devontae Smith, who had himself a great game. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown had fantastic games in this one. A.J. Brown, 9 receptions, 181 yards. That's a career high for him. Devontae Smith had 5 receptions for 126 yards. Those guys were absolutely insane with the catches that they were making, especially basically going right to the out-of-bounds line. Devontae Smith managing to keep his hands in there, and then basically on one of the final few drives of the game to get that huge touchdown, A.J. Brown basically going down the entire field, perfectly placed ball by Jalen Hurts, and a perfect catch by A.J. Brown. He breaks the defender, gets all the way down to the goal line. Sadly, he wasn't able to cross it, but still at the end of the day, you got into the red zone territory. You eventually scored that touchdown, and that's the end of the day right there. Defensively, there were some lapses. Overall, definitely. But overall, I would say the defense was kind of really good today, especially getting to Justin Fields. Haason Reddick was an absolute beast in this game. There were so many situations, him and Josh Sweat, where they were just absolutely rock. And I mean rock, destroy Justin Fields. There were a couple of situations where there was one huge fumble. I believe forced, 3rd and 27, 2nd and 27, to where I believe Haason Reddick got the Justin Fields. He forced the fumble. Fletcher Cox does a terrible job trying to get on top of the ball. Bears recover. They get that long 2nd, 3rd down situation, and Justin Fields just barely escapes the grab of Haason Reddick, and that was just a terrible goddamn collapse by the defense by the Eagles. And also, it was a fantastic run by Justin Fields in total. He went out of bounds before he was able to convert the touchdown, but overall in that drive, Chicago was able to score there. But so there were a few lapses, especially near the end parts of the game, where it became closer than it needed to be, where missed coverage, Justin Fields breaking tackles, and he finds a wide open Pringle in the end zone. That just can't happen. So there were a couple of laps defensively, but overall, I would say the defense was a major reason why you won this game, especially with the way they were getting to Justin Fields. So that's a huge thing right there. Running-wise, I'm not sure what the game plan was today by Shane Steichen. I'm not sure if this is him calling the plays, Jalen Hurts doing things on the spot, because it just kind of felt like it Jalen Hurts was being force-fed the ball too much to himself, and there were a lot of situations where he got rocked, and I was scared for my life because there were a couple of plays where he got up a little slow, and you saw in the replays he's wincing a little bit. He just a little bit too much in pain, and it's just like, please, we don't need this going into Dallas. We don't need Jalen Hurts getting hurt going into the Dallas game. But he comes out of this game fine. I'm sure he's banged up a little bit, especially being out in that cold weather in Chicago. I'm sure he's going to feel the pain a little bit there. But I'm sure he's going to be fine going into Dallas next week. So I don't think there's going to be anything to worry about there. But I just kind of felt like there was a little bit too many forced plays, especially early on in the game. Just kind of felt like some passes were forced, especially deep balls. Kind of felt like Quez Watkins was being force-fed a little bit too on run plays especially. It just felt weird. Kenneth Gainwell as well. Just kind of felt like we were targeting weird, players in certain situations, just force-fitting people all over the field to where it just makes it confusing. We're just trying to go for these deep shots on 3rd and 2 to Quez Watkins where it becomes 4th down in your own territory and you got to punt it. It just felt weird. But I guess you still got the job done. That's all that matters. Jalen Hurts made that amazing throw. A couple of amazing throws to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. They still found a way to win. I think that's the end of the day. What you take. It's what you take. You get the win. You escape Chicago. You knew it was a trap game. You found a way to win. And you're 13-1 now, and now you go into Dallas week, which is probably, what was being maybe looked a little bit more than the Chicago Bears. Let's be real here. That probably was being looked at a little bit more. Maybe there could have been some overlooking of this Bears team, and maybe that's why you struggled against them a little bit there. But Dallas choked against Jacksonville. So, with that whole talk about, Micah Parsons and everything like that about Jalen Hurts, maybe Dallas should have focused on, Jacksonville this week. Kind of choked it there at the end of the game, allowing Jacksonville to get that late field goal to tie the game. And then in overtime, Dallas gets the stop, but then Dak Prescott in midfield throws a huge interception, which returns for a pick-6 game-winning touchdown. So Dallas, they go to 10-4. They don't clinch a playoff spot, and now they got to face the Eagles on Christmas Eve in their own house. So it's going to be a pretty intense week. That's probably saying the least, especially with the comments that Micah Parsons said, last week on the podcast. Man, on Von Miller's podcast, that was something. Even though I didn't take it as much because I just felt like, okay, he's saying all this stuff right now. I think Jalen Hurts is going to go down into Dallas and basically make Micah Parsons eat his words. And that's why I wasn't really overreacting to that entire situation, but probably should have beat Jacksonville, Dallas. You probably should have checked on your own situation instead of going out there and making comments about Jalen Hurts. Hey, Eagles may have struggled against Chicago. They found a way to win. They're the 13-1 team. They're the best team in football. What are you doing, Dallas? Oh, you're almost losing to the Houston Texans. Oh, because of high-end talent allow you to win, and because the Texans, they're basically the tankiest of the tank. That's why you won that game late. But you weren't able to, beat a hungry Jacksonville team when you were up by so many scores. Allow Trevor Lawrence to come back into the game. They force a 4th down late with around a minute left. Making some check down plays, a huge play to get out of bounds, huge first downs, kick a field goal to tie it. And then Dak just completely fucks up in overtime. Maybe focus on yourself there a little bit, Dallas. It would have been even sweeter if Minnesota lost the Colts, if the Colts didn't blow, a historic loss there. If the Colts didn't blow that 30-plus point lead there to Minnesota, it would have been a little bit sweeter. Because I was looking throughout my phone basically the entire time. I'm looking, the Colts, they're up 30-0. What the hell is going on here? And then basically I'm just, as I'm walking outside because I was going somewhere at this point, I see on my phone, update ESPN, okay, Minnesota scores. The Minnesota scores again. The Minnesota scores again. I'm like, they're going to come back, aren't they? It's going to be basically a replication of what happened in Buffalo with them in Minnesota. But still, have that historic comeback win, would have made it even sweeter if the Colts didn't find a way to choke that. I guess Matt Ryan, even though this wasn't his fault entirely, it was not. It just feels like choking follows him wherever he goes. 28-3 in the Super Bowl. And now this. Big choked leads. Kind of a, follow Matt Ryan, even though it's probably not his fault. Freaking Jeff Saturday. Probably should have kicked a field goal there. Seal the game. But he didn't. But let's focus on the Eagles here. 13-1. Going into Dallas week. Still undefeated on the road. Even though this game was pretty frustrating, it definitely was from a play calling perspective, not using Miles Sanders enough. I know he did have that fumble on that one down play, but it just felt like it wasn't utilized enough. Basically overusing Jalen Hurts a lot. Kind of felt like he was going to get destroyed. Almost did, honestly, a couple of times. Ugh. My God. They found a way, though. Haason Reddick was amazing. Just basically the defense was really good. Josh Sweat was really good, too. Even looking at the defense a couple of times here. Like I said, Haason Reddick, he had 2 sacks in this game. Josh Sweat, he was absolutely fantastic as well. If I can find Josh Sweat's stats here. He had 2 sacks. So basically, Justin Fields, he got sacked how many times? 6. I'm trying to see who else had a couple of sacks in this game. Javon Hargrave had 2 sacks as well. He was a beast out there. They were making some good tackles. I remember TJ Edwards. He had a huge knock on one of the receivers. And also there were a couple of injuries on Chicago's side that probably really hindered him a little bit. But still, at the end of the day, they are the Chicago Bears. They're not that good of a team. It sucks that you struggled enough against them, even though this was an obvious trap game, especially going into Dallas. You still found a way to win. You still found a way to get the job done. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Got the win. You improved to 13-1. And now you focus on Dallas. Now you got a Christmas Eve in Dallas, AT&T Stadium, Jerry World, against the Dallas team who has yet to clinch a playoff spot, who just choked against the Jacksonville Jaguars in overtime. Dak throwing a huge interception. You beat them earlier this year, even though Dak wasn't the quarterback at this point. You basically spanked them. You shut down Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons running his mouth on Von Miller's podcast. Go into Christmas Eve and give Philadelphia a Merry Christmas. It's all what you got to do at this point. My God. Just looking at some other stats. Justin Fields, great runner. Fantastic runner. He broke 1,000 yards this year. He had 15 carries, 95 yards. He was 14 of 21, 152 yards total. 2 touchdowns. He got sacked 6 times, like I said. Overall, Chicago really needs to give him weapons because it kind of feels like they're just force-feeding Justin Fields. He's running a lot and everything. He got hurt later in the stages of the game as well. Look, I'm not sure if he pulled a hamstring or something like that or something just cramped up. But when that offense a little bit that one-dimensional, even though the Eagles had some breakdowns later on in the game as well, especially on that late touchdown pass by Justin Fields, it was, I kind of feel like for Chicago's standpoint, it's a little too one-dimensional because they have no weapons. So that's probably the fact there. But Justin Fields is definitely a young, up-and-coming quarterback in this league. Chicago really needs to get him some help. They really do. But yeah, it just felt like, looking at this game, like I'm looking through the play-by-play on ESPN. You force Chicago. They go for it on fourth down early in the first quarter. You force that turnover, but then you get the Jalen Hurts interception. Just kind of felt like it was way too forced there on 3rd down. Just kind of, he's running out of the pocket, forced it in the deep coverage, underthrown possibly, goes right back to Chicago. Even though you force them to punt it a couple of times, you go down the field, get a field goal, they respond now, and that's basically right after when you had that long 3rd down play, 2nd and 27, after getting a lot of sacks there from, Haason Reddick and Josh Sweat doing their thing. Haason Reddick basically got the collar of Justin Fields, couldn't bring him down fully. He escapes, he runs down the entire field, and eventually that turns into a touchdown a couple of plays later. And then another interception happens. Thankfully, you didn't have to, Chicago didn't score off of that turnover, but it just kind of felt like, forcing plays right there from Jalen Hurts, just being very uncharacteristic. He's a guy that never really turns the ball over. He knows how to handle it. Just today, he was human. Get a late touchdown. Jalen Hurts just basically runs right up the middle, as he normally does, gets into the end zone, and you find yourself winning at halftime, which it was like, we're winning this game with how bad we're playing? Okay. Then you get another good touchdown to open up the quarter. Well, open up the half. Jalen Hurts once again up the middle. Quarterback sneak. Make it a 17-8 game or 17-6 game. But then you fumble on the first play of your next drive after you force Chicago to punt. Miles Sanders with that fumble. Chicago eventually returns that for a touchdown. A couple of punts. A huge fumble recovery there as Chicago was going down the field. Eagles recover it huge there, but then the Eagles try to go for it on fourth down at the Chicago 33. They don't convert on 4th and 6. Maybe should have just went for the field goal. But then defense comes up huge again. You force them to punt. Then you go down the field, 10-play drive, over 8 minutes there. But then you decide to go for the field goal on 4th and 10, and Jake Elliott doinks it. Wind was probably a factor there, but kind of felt bad. Kind of felt like, oh, God. Defense once again comes up huge. Forces a 3-and-out. Chicago taking penalties and getting sacked a bunch. Helps the Eagles. They punt it. And then Jalen Hurts with that huge pass to A.J. Brown, 68 yards on 3rd and 6. Takes it all the way down there. Get the touchdown. And then you go for the 2-point conversion where you do a fake quarterback sneak after Chicago takes so many penalties. Gets it right on the goal line for the 2-point conversion. You do a fake quarterback sneak. The entire offensive line pushes forward. Jalen Hurts just goes right to the left. They were expecting it the entire time, and you fooled them. And then Chicago gets that, touchdown, which was completely blown coverage after Justin Fields breaks a couple of tackles, finds a wide open Pringle. Slay, I have no idea what he was doing on that. Touchdown. And then the Eagles needed to get a couple of first downs, basically to seal the game because Chicago didn't have any timeouts left. And you win it. Like I said, at the end of the day, you got the win, and that's all that matters. It's the most important thing there. And now you focus on the Dallas. It's going to be a huge week. Definitely going to be a huge, huge week for this Eagles team. A lot of animosity going into this week against Dallas. They just choked against Jacksonville. Let's see what happens. So let's go to the voicemail line here. You can leave a voicemail or a text message at 215-839-9885. Leave your thoughts and opinions on every news, recaps, or anything like that. And if you do plan on leaving a text message or a voicemail, definitely leave your name just so I can save that contact for future use for you to appear on future streams and everything like that. But you can also utilize the YouTube live feed. It's your preference. I'm giving you options. Does not matter to me. It's your preference at the end of the day. So let's go to Sean and hear what he has to say on this Eagles win against the Chicago Bears.
Yes, sir. Winning ugly, but winning nonetheless. But I got to say it, Amadeo, somebody needs to go into the locker room or press box area ASAP and test Shane Steichen's blood alcohol level with this game plan today. I'm not the smartest of people, and the fans in general, yes, we're considered a bunch of dopes. But when it's 15 degrees and you've got 24-mile-an-hour wind gusts, why was your game plan throwing bombs all day? Yes, some of them worked, but a lot of them didn't. And why, again, are we throwing the wide receiver screens, which haven't worked pretty much about 95% of the time? It is mind-boggling to me that Miles Sanders didn't touch the ball really at all in this game. You wonder, and I hate to say it, if it's agenda-driven by the powers that be up top, knowing that Miles is looking for money at the end of the year, and let's piss him off and get him out of here. I don't know, but that's the only thing to me that makes sense. But again, as I just said to Hunter Brody, it is now officially Dallas week. Let the cockroach troll Cowboy fans cry in their beer today at their debacle. I'm laughing my ass off. I think it's great. Go Birds. And let's make it a Merry Christmas for everybody by administering season's beatings to the Cowboys next week.
I love that. I love that little shot to the Cowboys fans there, all the trolls and everything like that. What, all Dallas Cowboys fans are what? Lakers fans, they're Yankees fans, they're Duke Blue Devil fans. And so I'm betting they're all crying their little bit asses off tonight with, that choke job. Yeah, it still just boggles my mind with how many bombs they were doing today. Yeah, like you said, some of them worked and most of them didn't. There were so many bombs early in the game, a lot of throws that were underthrown by Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts just looked off today. Had a bad game, but it just kind of felt like the play calling didn't benefit him either. Just, why are we force feeding all these deep throws? Especially with the cold weather, why not we just run it a little bit? Why isn't Miles Sanders getting as many carries as he did? He only got 11 in this game. After, he broke the 1,000-yard rushing last week in New York. Why are we barely touching him at all? Is there something to that? I have no idea. Not sure if they were just overthinking the game plan here today. Oh, we're against an easy opponent this week. Let's just, chuck it all over the... I don't know. I have no idea. It's weird. But, yeah, they better have some better play calling set up. And I'm sure they're going to have better play calling set up next week for Dallas because that's just such a huge game. So, and most likely, I would assume if you win next week, that can maybe clinch the NFC. So, I'm not entirely sure what the implications could be next week for an Eagles win and a Dallas loss. Like, can the Eagles clinch the NFC next week, or is it just the NFC East? It would most likely be the NFC East if the Eagles win next week. That's what I would assume at this point. But I'm trying to debate on the entire NFC East and the NFC as a whole. Like, when can that be a possibility? I'm not entirely sure. So I guess we'll just wait and find out as the weeks go on. Well, you got next Saturday. Well, this upcoming Saturday, actually, Christmas Eve. It's kind of weird. It's just weird playing football, even though that, this is the point of the season where a lot of the games are spread throughout Saturday and Sunday, and you just happen to get the Saturday game. So that's going to be definitely something that's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait, to get some seasons beatings to the Dallas Cowboys. It was fun watching that choke job in overtime. It was fun. Today was frustrating from an Eagles fan's perspective. You found a way to win now. That's the most important thing. You found a way to win. And that's what we should look at. Jalen Hurts was human today. Still found a way to put up 315 yards passing. He'll get the interceptions under control. This was just one of those one-off games. It was probably one of his worst games. I'm not sure if this game was worse or the Washington. I think the Washington game was worse just because you lost that game. But Jalen Hurts still found a way to get this team to a win. Some dimes to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Defense came up huge in a lot of situations, even though there were some collapses. Haason Reddick, Josh Sweat were huge in this game. Got to see. Got to look towards this week now. All eyes on both Eagles and Dallas. Probably the biggest matchup of this weekend. Honestly, I want to look at the NFL schedule just to see the matchups for next week. So if we look into next Saturday, so let's look there. Let's see, Saturday. There's a lot of games on Saturday, actually, not that many on Christmas. So yeah, Eagles, Dallas at 4:25. Any other big? Do the Vikings play? The Vikings play the Giants next week, so that's definitely something to look at there. What else? Yeah, that's basically going to be the biggest game next week. Eagles, Dallas. Everyone's gonna be watching. 4:25 Fox, Christmas Eve. Philadelphia, all eyes there. Man, and just look at the standings overall right now. As we all know, Eagles first place, 13-1 record. Dallas in second in the NFC East at 10-4. Looking at the entire NFC East as a whole, or the NFC as a whole, Eagles with the first place spot in the NFC. Minnesota 11-3 after getting that huge comeback win against the Colts. San Francisco 49ers, they are 10-4. Dallas is 10-4. I'm assuming Dallas right now is in a wild card spot. That's what I would assume at this point. Same at Washington, same with the New York Giants. They're all in the wild card spots as well. So definitely a lot of football left to be played. We all know the Eagles already clinched their playoff spot. If the Eagles win next week, how many games? I'm assuming the Eagles only have 2 games left after next week's game. That's what I would assume at this point. Yeah, Dallas, then New Orleans, and New York. So, say if the Eagles win next week, do you think they just rest a bunch of the starters against New Orleans and the Giants? to give a lot of the guys some rest, especially Jalen Hurts. Maybe you see Gardner miss you a little bit there in those 2 games. Gotta wait and see. But first, basically, can't look that far ahead. This week's Dallas. You gotta go beat Dallas. Beat them already in the first, couple of weeks this year. Went 1-0. Now, all the spotlights are on you on these 2 teams. Both teams, great records. They're great football teams right now. Don't want to show any respect to Dallas. But all eyes, the entire football national scale is going to be on that matchup this Saturday, Christmas Eve. See what they can do. Jalen Hurts, to continue his MVP campaign, can he show a lot on Christmas and give the Philadelphia fan base a great Christmas? I see you right there, Sean. Eagles better not ruin my damn Christmas. Oh, man. Oh, man. But yeah. Just gotta wait and see. Let's look at some live feed comments here before we end off tonight. Yep, Mr. W, how about them Cowboys? Yeah, everyone basically just saying here, Dallas choked. Thank you, Doug Peterson. That's basically it. Doug Peterson looking out for Philadelphia. Eagles starters, they'll play 1 half against New Orleans. They won't even be in uniform against the Giants. Ian Book and Trey Sermon time. Yeah, that's probably what I'm expecting at this point. So, this week, everyone focus on Dallas. Get all your stuff prepared for Christmas. All your Christmas parties that are going to be on Christmas Eve, if you're even doing that or waiting till Christmas. Have a gigantic watch party for Eagles Cowboys. I'm assuming that's what all of Philadelphia is going to be, how they're going to be celebrating Christmas. You got Eagles this Saturday, and then you got Sixers Knicks on Christmas Day. So, a lot to think about going into this week, but this is going to do it for here, everyone. So, what are your thoughts on this game? Do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd like to say those as always. Do not forget to drop a like on the video. Do not forget to check out everything in the description down below. Painted lines, BrodesMedia, I recommend all that stuff. Same thing with hitting that subscribe button. It does me a great deal. And also, use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Use it for anything you can think of, possibly getting yourself to one of those last 2 Eagles home games of the season against the New Orleans and the Giants. Also, you could probably utilize that for Sixers, and if you want to put yourself through a Flyers game. Great deal. Don't pass it up. TTP Sports, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And we'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight,